Hey, Vigilante Williamson with the 64th episode of the Culture Crime Fires. I told you it's not dead, just on hiatus. It's a season finale and it's the season premiere
Back,
of
baby.
the new Culture Crime Fires. A little bit of a different format, pre-recorded.
That's right.
Pre-wrecked, so get wrecked.
Get wrecked.
Joined by my partner in Culture
Please.
Crime Fighting, none other than the man, the myth, the legend himself, Matt from Foulball Productions. How you doing, man?
Hello. I am doing well, Mr. Vigilante Williamson. This is a very pleasant surprise. I didn't expect that we were going to be revitalizing this wonderful property quite so soon, but much like Hollywood, we have to find what worked and just do it over and again and again and again.
Reboot quickly, man.
That's right. Reboot. It's the only way to make any money in this game.
Yeah, it is. It is. You know what, though? A lot kind of has changed. We've actually met in person.
It's true. We have. You were in my car.
I was in your car. I was there at the Foulball Cave. I met
At
Luke.
the Foulball Cave. That's right. You met Luke. You saw the illustrious studio.
Yeah.
Yes. Much like, what's that, Apple studio in London or England or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah. Same level of prestige.
Clearly. Clearly, it's one of the, biggest studios on earth. And, yeah. So that happened. I am in a different place, man. I did realize, because I kind of consider myself, all right, this past Thursday, this is me coming back, and then the reaction to this store thing, it was like, man, I've been unplugged, to quote like Agent Smith out the Matrix. In the second one, which was the worst one, but he was just like, yeah, I'm unplugged from the Matrix. And I've been unplugged a little bit from, excuse me, that was a professional. Unplugged a little bit from the community, and then realizing both the merit of the community and some of the I don't know, issues, challenges, criticisms, whatever. I was able to see both sides, because with this store, I realized, you know what, there are still a lot of normies who have no clue this is happening, who are shocked, like, huh? There's LGBTQ messages in Thor. What's going on? And it's like, you guys didn't know, but no, they didn't. So I see, like, no, listen, no matter what you may think, it's still necessary to call this stuff out. But then you see I've seen this meme, and I don't know where it is. It's like the NPC meme. There's a bunch of people saying the same thing or whatever, the little comic bubble, and it's this thing, I'll watch this so you don't have to. And it's like, that's a part of it too. So just trying to balance that out. So it's been an interesting perspective, and I'm just like, okay, I'm glad that I've been able to kind of like normify myself a little bit, to where I'm not like so glued into this that it's just like, oh, there's more woke stuff, is woke. But it's also like, I don't know. It's just like, okay, well, that said, this stuff needs to be called out, because there's still plenty of people who don't know. So that's
So yeah, tell me a little bit more about not being plugged in. I want to hear about that.
I mean, even before, I hadn't watched a lot of the community stuff in a while. Just, there's some stuff I'll chime in, or show up for a little bit, but I just hadn't cared about. I didn't even care about the Lightyear. Like, there's so many little stories that kind of happen. I kind of had a little bit of blissful unawareness to, you know what I'm saying? And even
well, yeah, so what's that like? If you're blissfully unaware, like, what was life like outside of the bubble?
Yeah, it was stressful for other shit, but relative to, like, this was one stress I didn't have to deal with. It was like, okay, I didn't have to go to Bounding every week and see what was going on.
Fair enough.
What was what. No disrespect to Bounding, love those guys. They do a lot of good work, but I didn't have to figure out what was the next thing being ruined. I didn't have to care. I didn't have to care that Popeye's now transgender, or all this other stuff. I just didn't have to care. Sometimes, shout out to 24/7, another person I actually met in real life since, which was pretty cool. But I was able to just I followed like his channel and would see some stuff, but I was able to not care that Hollywood was ruining everything and not get so caught up in it and not what's the word I'm looking for? Not let it get to me at a personal level. Sometimes it
Interesting.
does. This stuff has gotten to me at a personal level. Where it's just like, man, it just relentless. It's just like, that's not, it still affects a lot of stuff. It's still there's an overcoat of wokeness in a lot of things. And I do, like I said, I do realize also, my criticisms. I've been pretty critical of the community toward the end. And I realize, there's still a place. There's still, sometimes it feels grifty. And you realize, hey, regardless of that fact, still millions of people don't know what's going on right now. No matter how much we know woke is and all this, still people don't know.
That's an interesting perspective, because that's a perspective I have not been privy to in a long time.
Yeah.
I know that it's true because, most people that I meet in the real world,
no clue.
They have no fucking idea. I mean, they are probably politely like, all right, if you asked them, if you cornered them and you really got inside their brain and you truly like forced an answer out of them, most people I think would probably be like, it's a little much. But I don't think they understand, like they wouldn't be cognizant of the fact that it's this kind of like nationwide and global movement, to get you on board with the right way to think, and that they use all different platforms, all different ways to convince you of their worldview. So you know what? That's an interesting perspective because it's like I'm not privy to that much except for in the real world. But in the real world, I try to avoid these conversations as much as possible because they just don't go well.
Yeah,
they're not productive.
Yeah, because I can imagine. I mean, I can imagine a lot of people thinking it sounds like tinfoil hat shit. You know what I mean?
Or you just sound like a right wing, like they just think, oh, you must be like a, Tucker Carlson, like Fox News guy or something. Like, you know what I mean? They do see the world like pretty black and white. It's Austin, but it's, it's just, most people aren't necessarily like, I hesitate to use this word, but like intellectuals in the sense that like they don't, the interest of having complex conversations about ideas and the nature of, these things is not necessarily what they want to do. I'm sure they're capable of it at times, but it's not really what drives them. Whereas I think a lot of, us, the ones who talk and also the ones who listen, that's why they're listening, right? Like they are the sort that have that kind of mindset, right? Like when I went to the Chris Williamson meetup about a month ago in Austin, whatever that was, it wasn't surprising or weird that all the people there were, pretty smart, pretty sharp, and were willing, like had interesting perspectives, but also like had a deftness, a nimbleness to curtail themselves, to make sure that it wasn't like an echo chambery type conversation. We weren't just agreeing with each other. Like it was a complex, flowing, interesting conversation, and like everybody was capable of doing that. And it's like, well, that makes sense because that's what Chris does. So that's the type of people he's going to draw in. So that would be the same for what we do, what Gary does, like what everybody, you know what I mean? Like this whole sphere, it's like, yeah, the person they're listening to is talking about the thing that they are interested in and are aware of. So that's like the connective tissue of the speakers on the YouTube and also the people listening, like in this, corner of it. But most people, I don't know. I don't know. Like they probably would have gone looking, right, if they wanted to have that conversation, if they wanted to know more.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people, especially when you're talking about media, especially when you're talking about entertainment. I mean, they've never really been hardcore fans of anything. It's all just been kind of fluff to them. It's all Greek. Like they don't really care. They just, toss their kids in front of whatever movies and watch, oh, here's a new Marvel movie. This will allow me to turn my brain off for an hour and a half. They don't even have a deep interest. You know what I mean? All this stuff is just
the earmark of a normie, and I know this because I'm normie in certain regards, is like just basically what you are a fan of or what you've collected is the most mainstream and accessible version of whatever that thing is.
Yeah, that too.
Like
Yeah.
I'm a definitely like an anime normie.
Hmm.
So like I watch Akira, Ghost in the Shell,
Yeah.
Ninja Scroll. Like these things, that's like the AAA primo. Every anime fan is aware of that. Like it's not deep at all. Like that's just the surface. Because it's like, I mean, I'm not hardcore with it, right? But that's like when you hear like normally like their favorite like musician is like Bruce Springsteen. You're like, all right,
Yeah.
their favorite movies like Anchorman. You're like, okay.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like they don't go for the deep cuts. They didn't explore it. They didn't like spend the time to learn it. Now, there's anything wrong with that. You don't have to, but it tracks that you wouldn't notice when the things are getting corrupted. Like it's like what Gary used to say about the comic shop, where he would say that the people who are just it's not that they're not going to fight, they're not going to throw a fit, they're just going to stop buying, they're just going to move on. They don't even necessarily know why. It was kind of like we talk about with our parents. They're just kind of like, yeah, that wasn't very good, is as much as they can understand it. It's like, meanwhile, we're going over it with forceps, being like, well, this plot line was woke because it was motivated by racism, and then it's like we're
Intersectionality.
yeah, and it's like we're getting into the guts of it, whereas like most people are just like, no, I just didn't like that, and that's as much interest as they put into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you know what? Oh, it wasn't that bad. It was fine because they didn't really care. I mean, they care enough to watch it, but they don't really, as long as they see enough of whatever mainstream elements attract them, whether it's special effects in a movie or just whatever. It's like, oh yeah, it's all right.
Also, I do think people don't. I think most people don't want to believe that like what they think or like what seems like the nice like kind of path of least resistance is actually relatively nefarious.
Yeah, I agree with that too. There's no way the average person wants to think, okay, Disney is trying to brainwash their kids. Like, who wants to think that? Who would even really consider that outside of maybe you heard? I think that little that bill a few months ago kind of brought that light to a certain amount of people who like follow politics.
Yeah,
that kind of hit them. But otherwise, you wouldn't have known that or cared or thought about that. You would just like, yo, I got Disney Plus for my kids, and sit the brats in front of the iPad and just walk away. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that's pretty much it.
Well, I was thinking about like a few things that like my parents like would say or do, that were like, it was very much just like what was said at the time, and then it became like the law. Like I was thinking about like cutting up your the 6-pack plastic rings. You remember that?
Yeah. Because you didn't want fish to get caught in it.
Yeah. And it was like it probably had the same level of significance as like the straws with the plastic straws with the turtle.
Yeah.
Right? There was probably like one photo on National Geographic or something like that of a fucking seal caught in like a ring, and then it became its evil. Right? Like it had the same level of intellectual exploration as I saw this video of a straw and a turtle. I'm like, okay, bad forever. Probably the same thing. You know what I mean? But that's like, you think about it, like my parents, like the stuff that they just repeat. Like no, like that's the way you're supposed to think about these things. It's like, Ma, you saw a commercial about that, or you saw like one news special. You know what I mean? 20 years ago, and you've just been saying it forever.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's just people. So it's interesting you mention this because this is kind of what I want to talk to you about, because we're talking about you being like away from it, being a normie, just like, and that's got to be refreshing, right? Like, wasn't that nice?
Yeah, it was, and I felt like, oh, I'm coming back to this. I'm coming back. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh man.
It's like in Train Spotting when they decide to go back on heroin and they go get all like the supplies and the gear and shit that they need to go to survive doing it.
I know everyone hates me, but I've never seen Train Spotting.
Yeah, it's okay. It's just like it's one of those movies. But yeah, they decide to go back on heroin, and like they prepare.
Man,
they buy all the things they're gonna need.
It's funny you mention that. I don't want to go back on heroin because I've never done it. But boy, do I want weed. I want weed more now than I'm not gonna say ever in my life, but it feels like it. Like, holy smokes. I've gone. It hasn't even been that fucking long. I felt like, oh man, it's been months. like 6 weeks. I'm like, what the
Yeah.
fuck? Fuck! Come on, man.
That's
It's
funny.
just killing me. And some people will take 6 months to a year. Fuck that. I don't know if I can make it, man. I don't know if I can make it.
One day at a time, brother. One day at a
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
But no, so the topic came up because I was doing a game stream the other night with Imperitus, and we were playing Mech Warrior 5. It was pretty sick.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the kind of game I can play like over and over and over, but like for now, for like what it is, it's fucking fun. Like you're just in these giant mechs, and like you have to like blow up helicopters and tanks and other mechs, and it's pretty sick. Like once you start to get good at it, like it's pretty satisfying, you know. But in the chat, Newbomb Turk and Sentient Dildo kind of started going after me a little bit.
Really?
And the chat as well. It was there was a pretty hostile take, but it was criticizing the nerd sphere echo chamber essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And it was saying about how, you know, all hail Gary, all hail Az was kind of like, you know, all praise or something like that, something like that. You know what I mean? And it was just like, you know, if they say it's bad, it's bad. You know, and like we all just like repeat it and get in line. And like Newbomb Turk was saying that, like he's saying that he like hears people repeating the things that they say and this, that, and the other. And I was kind of curious to hear like what your thoughts are like on that subject.
Man, you know, I know I've probably been guilty of it, right? Without knowing it or meaning to. I always try to have like a different, you know, I don't want to go as far as contrarian, but yeah, I've always tried to, you know, add in some, you know, challenge to my own thoughts that I present. But I mean, you know what though? I'm not consuming as much top to bottom content as them.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I'm not back enough to speak to it, but it definitely was some element of that, right? Of just like their thoughts dictate what is good and what is bad. I mean, you know, it's funny. That's not just in this sphere. I mean, that happens a lot of cases where a critic or critics, like their opinion and their thoughts of a topic can gather or galvanize a section of the fandom of that topic or of that entity to where like their opinion and their philosophy it dictates to a lot of people how they feel. And I'm like, I mean,
that's a good point. And I think I've been guilty of it at times. I think, you know, you get caught up. Like, partially, it's not just because, like, they said it, so I think it. It's partially because it's additionally because, like, these guys they're good. Like, they're smart. Like, they're insightful. And so many of the things that they say that I've listened to were so fucking spot on. Like, and it was shit, like a lot of other shit I didn't even notice. You know, they were like, wow, you know, like, damn, you really got into this. You got into the guts of this, and you found out this stuff that I didn't even think about. And I thought I was insightful. Like, damn. So it does happen where you can feel, or it can begin to happen where you sort of supplement their point of view for your own.
Mm-hmm.
Because they've just been right so many times, they've been so insightful and so sharp about stuff that it does happen where it's like, even if maybe you had a different opinion, you might just kind of adopt theirs.
Yeah, or more. Or another thing that happens, not to cut you off, is like, you know, in a lot of cases, there's like we came to these people because you know, in a lot of cases, we already kind of shared some of their sensibilities. So it's like it's not that far of a reach.
No.
Or far of a movement towards that opinion.
It's just more evolved usually. It's just a little bit more like they had the time to pour over it 6 times and read about it and watch every video about it before they made their video. You know what I mean? Like they studied the shit.
Yeah.
So it's like there's something, but I do think part of what they were saying had some validity. I think, you know, in the sense, like I said, like I've been guilty of it, or I've been aware that I have done that. I try not to, especially on the streams. I try to speak from my own point of view, but I'm human. I'm sure I've fucked up and, you know, done that before. But the other thing too that I thought was unfair about what they were saying, it came off haughty and high and mighty. is that a lot of these people, not everyone is a thought pioneer.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone is. Not
Yeah.
everyone can blaze an intellectual trail. Like, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of scrutiny. It takes a lot of self-reflection. It takes a lot of self-scrutiny, which is
Mm-hmm.
exhausting.
Research,
And
even. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah, research and just thinking about it and having like, a novel idea or novel take all the time. It's a lot of work. And to assess everything that comes your way and, go over it and like weigh it. It's like it's hard. And
Mm-hmm.
so you're taking people who have been emotionally kicked out of the spheres of the things that they loved. And we're not talking about people necessarily with a lot other like things going on. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
like not everyone here in like the nerd sphere is like, you know, an entrepreneur with like 4 properties and a supermodel girlfriend. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Most dudes are fucking workaday guys who like their escapism was D&D or Star Trek or like that was just the
Mm-hmm.
one, the little nerd sphere. And then that one thing that was never cool, never got you chicks, never was your friends could bond over, but it was never like a popular thing to be into. It was just your thing. That became invaded, bastardized, completely hijacked and turned into this propaganda. And then when you said, "Hey, I don't like this," they're like, "What are you, a bigot, or what are you, a white
Yeah.
supremacist?" And so it's like you're basically taking like very essentially damaged people, a damaged community, damaged group of people. And then like when they find people who are essentially standing up for them,
Yeah.
are putting it out there and just being like, this is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I've loved this thing since I was a kid, as long as I can remember, and you've turned it into schlock, into political rhetoric, into hollow, poorly written trash. Fuck you. Like,
Yeah.
you're like galvanizing these guys who like I said, don't have much. So it's like to go after them for like, oh, you're just repeating what Gary said. It's like, yeah, dude, you're not wrong, man. But like, who are you talking to? You're talking to a guy who's like, paints fucking Deep Space Nine ships. You know what I mean? In
Yeah.
his spare time, like he doesn't.
Or those
This is what
40K miniatures. Holy smoke.
you know what I'm
Those things.
saying?
Yeah.
It's like the guy is not, he just likes to like the things he likes and that's it. And they were taken from him. So it's like, he's probably not a combative guy. He's probably not a confrontational guy. So it's like for you to like besmirch him or insult him or kind of deride him for like, oh, you're just repeating what Gary said before you even watched the thing yourself. It's like, so fucking what?
Yeah. Yeah. I will do a clarification. I don't know if damage is, it's not like we're all like broken people. Maybe aggrieved or
Yeah, maybe it's a little bit of an
but
exaggeration,
I
but
get what you're saying.
I
I'm
don't
just
know,
saying that.
man. It hit us all pretty hard. Like,
Yeah.
fucking,
Yeah.
Ruben doesn't even watch anything because of like, he said on the cocktail lounge the other night because of the Star Wars, which was, it was funny how he like stopped to like make a point.
Mm-hmm.
He's like as if it was news to us that Star Wars had been hijacked. It's like, fuck, Ruben, we know.
Yeah. But I
But
mean,
still, the point is, it's affected people pretty profoundly.
yeah, it messed with me. It definitely, just Disney as a whole doing this was like, well, I really like Star Wars and Marvel and DC. I really did like these properties. I really like, I mean, this is cliche, it's whatever. But man, a lot of I remember a lot of dark times in my life, like feeling like I had nothing and spamming these properties in my mind, like watching Batman animated series, watching the original trilogy, or whatever. And like, this is how I got through. This is what I, used to just kind of get through that time. So it's like that it hit, it hit different, so to speak, when it's like, oh man, this property that I invested so much in as a fan, like, hates me.
Yeah.
For no reason. It just hates
None.
me.
It just hates you because you're not, lockstep with the agenda, with like the new programming. And Dude, like for me, I'll take it even a step further. Like I felt everything you're saying, which is true. The things that like made me me. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Yeah.
wearing a fucking Wayland Utani, you know what I mean? Like t-shirt. I've had this t-shirt for like 12 years or something. You know what I mean? It's like these things are not just things I'm a fan of. Like they make up a lot of my personality. They make up my interests. They're like how I spent my free time. And on top of that, it was also the industry that I was trying to make a fucking life in.
Yeah.
And so it goes even further because it's like also like you're not welcome here essentially in this whole city, in this whole industry. You're not welcome, and like until you start thinking like the pod people, fucking take a hike, you Nazi or whatever, So it's like it is, man. It's essentially a revolution. Like it's essentially like a cultural revolution that has affected people in really deep and complex ways. So it's like, yeah, at times there's gonna be kind of zealots. There'll be Gary bots, of course.
Yeah.
But personally, I just think like you're not wrong. I personally try as a broadcaster, creator, whatever it is, to not fall into that trap as much as I can. But I'm not gonna shit on people who do. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Like I can kind of maybe critique it a little bit, or just sort of think, like, just notice it. Really, it's like, he didn't actually see Thor. He's just saying what he heard Gary say. You know what I mean? Just kind of note it. But to like get angry about it or shit on it, like, fuck that guy. It's like, fuck you. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Another thing is, and this is I said this earlier, I don't watch everything top to bottom. Now that we, at least for me and you, like, have both a couple years into this, right? And some of the community members are a couple years into this, and now you've watched so many hours of this content, not just the Gary, the As Is, Critical Drinker, whoever, but then the next level down of content, and then the next level down from that. So you're now watching. So
Right.
You'll see the pattern of. Not, I've watched Gary's take on this. I've watched, Az's take. I've watched, I'm trying to think of a creator. You know what I mean? This mid-level creator who has like a 5,000. And I've watched Vigilante's take on it. And it's like, oh, it's the same thing. Fuck all these people.
And honestly, that does get exhausting.
Yeah.
Like when Thor came up on the cocktail lounge, I mean, I was just like, I really don't want to talk about it. Like I had no zero interest in hearing about it. Like it was almost like, I think you were there, like maybe a few weeks back on the cocktail lounge when like Tom was talking about ObiWan. I was just like,
yeah,
I could give a fuck. Like honestly, I genuinely didn't want to hear about it, and it wasn't like some political statement of trying to be like, I don't care about Star Wars anymore. I was just not even interested in hearing why it sucked. I didn't want to hear a word about it. Nothing.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's kind of, and like honestly, by the time the cocktail lounge rolled around on Friday, I couldn't have been less interested. Like I listened to Open Bar about an hour and a half maybe of Mahler and Drinker talking about it, and like some other dudes, which it was interesting. And then I also did Thursday Night Throwdown, and they were talking about it. And I was growing kind of weary of it at that point. And then by the time it came on Friday, I was like, we're done. We're dude, I don't care.
Yeah, and it's funny. I didn't watch, hardly anything on Thor. Well, because it was like, well, I already knew how this movie ends. You know what I mean? I knew what it was when they announced the damn movie. So now that it's here to fruition, like I said, it was interesting to see people outside the space react to it with the sort of shock, like, Marvel is there's LGBT. This is not the Marvel I'm used to. You know what I mean? That was more interesting, but I didn't really see anything because I didn't need to see anything. And then you mentioned ObiWan. It's like I didn't need to see anything. I have informally, you know what? I won't even say boycott. You were talking about Gary talking about people in the comic shop, right? Where they just leave. I've just left Disney. I've just left. I've just. That's why I don't really cover it anymore. I've just left. I'll make, a comment about it, but they've lost all benefit of doubt to me. Every element of it. I didn't even see No Way Home. I just had no interest. It wasn't like you said, it's not a political.
I really don't care.
Angry. Oh, it's just like,
No.
you know, I got.
I mean, I miss it. I'm not gonna say I don't miss it. I miss it, but you know, it's like sometimes I look at these really prominent YouTubers, especially, you know, guys in the Fandom Menace, and like, envious isn't the word, but just kind of like, you know, you admire it, you look up to it, you know, you think like, wow, what a cool life. Like, you know, you get to do what we do, but you make good money at it, and that's what you do. And it's like, that's the dream. That's awesome. Yeah. Then sometimes I look at it and I'm like, shit, they're kind of trapped. Because it's like, they can't be like, I'm not watching that.
Yeah, you got to watch it.
You know, it's like, you kind of have to. Like, it's like Mahler said it on his stream where he's like, it was the most transactional, Marvel experience I ever had, where I just went and said, okay, I got the information from the movie, thank you movie, and then moved on. Like, there was nothing, it was nothing more than I'm doing this because it's my job.
Sounds like you're dealing with a hooker.
You know what I mean? But it's also like kind of like, well, wait a minute, like what so now what are we doing? Like, it was helpful, it was important when it was, especially when the mainstream was like, this is what Star Wars should have been all along, and every fan is just like wants to fucking blow up a TV station. You know what I mean? Everyone's just cannot. It's like, it's everything I hate. It's nothing what I loved, and I've been loving this my whole life. How could you fucking tell me what this is? So
that
it was like
confusing too. You remember? It's like, what?
Yo, for real. You start to like doubt. You doubt yourself. Pills. Yeah, you doubt your. I doubted myself plenty during all that. You know what I mean? I'm just like, I guess I am a misogynist. Like, I don't know. Like, you don't know. Like, you just start to wonder, like, how could I be the only one who sees it this way, and everyone else around me is so convinced it's the greatest movie of all time? And it's like, I knew I wasn't wrong, but I felt like fucking Yoda on Dagobah all by myself. You know what I mean? Just like in exile. And then this magical moment happens when you go on YouTube and you hear all these other people who not only see it, but are funny, are articulate, are detailed, are thorough. It was like, oh, yes, thank you. It was like, I needed that more than I knew I could have needed anything.
Yeah.
It was one of the most tremendous moments in my whole life was finding all of those guys. And it was a gateway into a whole, like, group of people I didn't even know existed, who a lot of them I consider friends. And it's like, I'm glad, like, you know what I mean? I'm glad to know. It's like, it was so transformative. However, as art and conversation and culture moves, I kind of feel like we're actually at a post critiquing that stage. And now it's like, what's next? Is this forever?
Yeah. Yeah. That is the $64,000 question. I actually just did the math. My opinion on a lot of this is I have about 400,000 hours left of life, best case scenario. I'm not trying to spend that many on Marvel or Disney. I don't want to give them any more of my time. Like, I have this limited amount of time that I'm on this planet. I want to spend as little of it doing things I hate and talking about things I hate and giving that energy. And so I don't know what's next.
I don't either.
I don't know what, I mean, in many ways.
Sorry, like I was just saying, I'd almost just rather spend most of that time just doing an Eric July thing and start a fucking
yes, that was exactly what I was going to say.
Would rather do that. Like, it just seems way more cathartic and productive, and like, I can't do this forever. I can really do it now.
That seems like, I was just going to mention RippaVerse. That was literally what I was going to mention. Like, that seems like the only way forward. You get to a point where it's like, okay, we know what we're getting from them. They're not changing. Kathleen Kennedy ain't walking out that door. You know what I'm saying? That's not going to happen. A lot of us, I think, thought, well, we will fight with our wallets. And it's like, no, it's deeper than that. It's not that simple.
That's the first step.
Yeah. They're digging in the hills. So it's like, okay, I still want good material. I have to kind of find it. I have to look for it. Or if you're Eric July, I have to just create it. I have to, especially, he's a lot bigger into comics specifically. So if and then that's a space where they have fallen off from the mainstream level so hard that like there are lots of, I mean, not just manga, but independent comics that outsell like mainstream popular characters. You know what I mean? That Thor is this big thing. There are independent comics that outsell Thor regularly.
It's crazy.
Regularly.
I didn't even
Which
know
is
that. That's crazy.
yeah. So it's like that's a space where you can actually make an impact and actually beat the mainstream because of how fallen the mighty have been. You know what I mean? How much they've fallen off with their sales and their interest into the actual floppy comic,
Dude,
standard comic book.
I've thought about it with the graphic novel thing. I'm like, how accessible of a medium is that? Because it's like, I wrote a really good TV pilot that I still love and respect. Yeah, it's like a science fiction TV pilot. It's like, there's elements of like the Matrix in there, and there's elements of like, you know, a global AI, and there's lots of like, it's a really rich universe. Like me and my friend spent countless hours talking through the details of what this universe looks like, and you know where it goes, and what are the implications. Is God real in our story? Like, you know, like all kinds of shit. Like we really got into it, and it was great. I mean, that was the most that was by far the most fun part of the entire process. But we, you know, it was a TV show, it was a TV pilot, and it was just like, we're nobody. Like we're not. This isn't gonna happen. Like it's not. It's unrealistic to two completely unproven. One who's white, straight white male. You know, like pitching a TV show, a sight unseen. It doesn't. That's just not how it goes. You have to. It's you know that'd be a 1 in a trillion shot. You know, it's like you'd have to. Especially when it's a high budget science fiction, but graphic novels, I mean, I'm sure it's not cheap, but it's like, is it possible? Like, it's like that was. I've been thinking about that more and more because I've been reading more. I've been reading the boys' graphic novel, like right now, and it's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. It's just a blast. It's so much fun, and it's hilarious and vulgar, and it's great. But when after I'm done with the experience, it was cinematic in my head.
Mm-hmm.
It was like I was living in that, and it's because it's so vivid, it's so visual. It's very much like movies.
Yeah,
and then
visual medium.
Yeah, completely. And I was listening to today this podcast, Chris Williamson, and he had this guy on this.
No relation.
No relation. But it was like this Irish. I think he's an Irish like professor and psychologist, but also like into Marcus Aurelius and Stoicism. That's why I was listening to it, and he was telling me, or he was telling us about he made a graphic novel called like For Simius or something, but he said like he started reading these graphic novels and he really wasn't into it, but when he started to. What clicked for him was he went back and watched a bunch of old movies or a bunch of movies that he liked. It was just like, I think that was how helped him write the graphic novel. That's what helped him translate it into this medium. And I was just like, that's something. That's something.
Man, I'm going to tell you, do it. There's a lot of artists in the community. I couldn't tell you how much it costs to pay them or what they're, you know, I couldn't tell you what that is. I couldn't, you know, I've seen people do the Indiegogo crowdfunding thing. I've seen it occur. I don't know what I don't know the details are, but I know there are people who do know that stuff in the community, in the greater area of this space. Man, I think that is the only way forward because there's no I mean, one, the need for art, and I know maybe that's pretentious art, but the need for content. That art, content, entertainment is still there, and the need to, you know, I think we both lean creative. Need to create is definitely there. Man, you might as well.
Yeah, it's like can't hurt to look into it because I was like looking at the end of the boys like volume 1 omnibus. There was like they had their scripts, and I was like, that's not that different from a film script.
Yeah.
You know, it's probably, I mean, it's very similar. I mean, the whole thing with a film script is just don't put anything in it you can't shoot. Like, don't say he feels depressed, right? Just say he's got his head down and his hands on his elbows on his knees, and there's like a half drinking bottle of whiskey, right? Already
Yeah.
you have the image, right? You get it. He's depressed. So it's like you don't say he's depressed, you show it.
Somebody was looking at me in remote viewing or something.
But you get
Yeah.
it, right? So it's like you understand the image. So like and I was like looking at the graphic novel like script, and I was like, that's exactly what a movie script is. Like you describe what's in the scene, and then if you're a good artist, you convey a moment or something with the person so that it's like the audience gets it. I was like, that's really not. I could probably do that.
I think you can, man. I think you should. I would say do it. I would say do it.
Interesting thought.
Because I think the only way forward is forward. You can't. I'm not. Again, there's still a place. There clearly is still a place for this. There's still a place to criticize this. There's still a place. But I mean, you don't want it to be a transactional thing where you're like, okay, I see thing that I know I'm not gonna like. Okay. I know and then I complain about it.
Yeah, I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah,
it doesn't even. It seems so gross now. Now, like I feel like I'm grifting.
Yeah.
Because I'm not doing it out of any passion. Like I'm not doing it. Like I'm not connected to this. I'll probably do Lord of the Rings, because I do really love Lord of the Rings, and there's so few. Like I said, it's Star Wars. At this point, it's like
oversaturated.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, what a cutting edge opinion. ObiWan sucks. No one needs that video. Like it's, but it's like Lord of the Rings. Probably no one will need that video either because there's going to be so many creators talking about it, but. It's still something that I genuinely care about, so I might cover. I don't know. It depends. It depends on how I feel when I watch it. It looks horrible. Did you see that teaser?
I have not. I did not give it. It's funny. Recently I was thinking about rewatching the original Lord of the Rings
so good.
on HBO Max. I'm like, oh yeah, but I have no interest in this. I know what I'm gonna get. So
it's already the ground is so like salted.
Yeah.
Nothing will grow there.
Yeah.
You can so tell. Like it's already so spoiled.
Yeah, that's what I kind of imagine.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I think creation is the only way forward. You need alternatives. And your first, knock on wood, we're not going to speak bad into existence, but you're probably not going to have the highest selling graphic novel of all time your first run out, right?
Probably wouldn't be good.
It might not be. Who knows?
Yeah.
Again, compare it to what your competition is. It's not like Rainbow Flag Superman or Superman with a red hot poker in his ass.
Yeah.
So, which are literally fucking storylines.
I know. I remember.
So it's like but I think you get better, you grow in it, and it might be something you do. And it provides something. People do want to read. People still love the genre of science fiction, and they need content for it. They're not going to get much good from mainstream Hollywood. But another take that kind of happened very recently. I was on a stream yesterday with Paulie and Latino Slant. So shout out to Paulie.
Shout out to Paulie.
And man, you know what? I got to give Paulie credit for. He's just like looking for good movies and just looking for movies and just coming up with movies. And he recommended a movie to me, a movie from I think the year 2000. It's a Hong Kong love story called In the Mood for Love. And I'm glad I didn't.
I think I've seen that. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, but I'm glad. Apparently, it's one of these movies that you would study like in film school.
Yeah,
and stuff.
I have seen this. Yeah.
And I had no clue about that. I just had nothing. I went into it pretty much just blindly off his recommendation, and I love that fucking movie.
That's cool, man.
It was so beautifully shot and just well done. And just it's a love story. It's kind of like an unrequited love story to an extent, and it was just well done. It was just it was a shorter movie, about an hour and 40 minutes. Just a great place to be for a couple hours.
Isn't there like a sci-fi element to that too?
Apparently there's a sequel with a sci-fi element.
Oh, okay.
Which I don't know. Which is the sequel's called 2046.
Yeah,
and that
man, I haven't thought about these movies in a while.
Yeah, apparently there's like a whole trilogy, but I just saw that blind, and it was just like, oh man, this was a great place to be for a couple hours.
It's awesome, right?
Yeah, It's like, man, there is so much. And it's a movie I would have never thought to see if Paulie hadn't recommended. Right?
Yeah.
I'm like, there is still a lot of content I have never
There is
seen
still a lot. I mean,
that
that's
will
true.
absolutely entertain me. And I
That's a
need to
good
look
point.
for it.
You know, that's a good point. I remember I stopped doing that, but when I was doing MF for Mondays, like that was a segment I started including where I would talk about a property that I recommend watching. And I totally abandoned that idea, and I hadn't even thought about it until right now.
Yeah.
But that was like something I was like proud of. You know, I was like, yeah, you know what I mean? Because it's like I know so much. I have so many of these things that I just used to consume it constantly, and I have a really scrutinizing eye. Like I could see the difference. I could feel the difference between something that's like fine but forgettable, or actually really insightful and good. Like it's like I have this gift I could give, and I haven't even fucking thought about utilizing that in so long. But there really are, man. Like what I was watching. These are a little bit more on the more pedestrian, but I was watching Office Space the other day.
Yeah.
And it was just great. I lost myself
so
in the
great.
movie. I've seen that movie 25 times, and I lost myself in it again.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's why I think
Jews wore flair.
it's a piece of flair they made the Jews wear. What? She's fucking hilarious in that movie.
Yeah.
But like going back to why this whole topic started, but it was like that's why I think, you know, is even if we're changing, we're evolving as what we want to talk about and stuff like that. But there's like the people who are still out there defending it, like the Garys of the world. That's a service that like does need to be.
Yes. That's what I realized. As much as I can critique it, it has to happen because that, again, a lot of people who don't know, a lot of people who can't articulate it, and they hear that. Oh yeah, that's what I'm trying to think. I didn't even have the words for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And man, there's a reason that they latched on to this to entertainment and to, you know, art. It's like that is a huge part of your like thought process as a person. Is the movies you watch, the music you listen to, the things that you consume and love, the stuff that you ponder over.
Yeah.
And to go after that is, I mean, pretty nefarious. Yeah.
Unforgivable.
Yeah.
Like I went out after work today. I just like went into a bar. I've stopped going out with the people I work with. That is a new rule. I don't do it any longer because it was expensive and not productive, and it was like killing most of my life because it would just be like, you know, I'd be up out till the bar closed, which happens fast when you get out of work at like 11.
Yeah, it's only a few hours, right?
Yeah, so you know it happens quick. But then now it's 2. You're drunk or you're buzzed or whatever, and like it's not like I go home and go right to bed. You know, keep drinking usual. You know, it was like it was this cycle of destruction, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm done. I'm out. I'm finished. I don't need this. It's not productive. This isn't. And you know, nothing about the people that I work with, but it's not exactly like I'm getting a lot out of them. It's not like we're having conversations like this, or they're also creatives I can collaborate with, or you know what I mean. They're just people that I happen to work with, and they're all nice and fine, but I was getting nothing out of it, so I stopped. But I went to a bar by myself, like another one that we don't go to, and was like drinking and just having like a drink. I got to a decompression beer after work, and then as I was getting ready to go, fucking an old Gangstar song came on.
Hey,
and it was like, oh, I hadn't heard this in like 10 years.
Yeah,
and it was like, and it just filled me with like good energy. And then like I, you know, was playing Gangstar on the ride home.
Yeah.
And I mean, man, when I got into Gangstar, I got into Gangstar. Like, I fucking, every album they ever put out, like, I bought, I, like, had it on my iPod. You know what I mean? I was like, when I lived in Brooklyn, I thought I was cool. Because I was, like, walking down the streets of Brooklyn listening to Guru. Like, I thought, you know? But it was, like, what you just said about it matters to you, like it forms like, you know, who you are and like what you ponder on, and it's like it does, like that 100% was a big part. It's a big part of who I am.
Yeah,
there's a
Mass Appeal
like
is playing in my head.
You know what I'm saying? There's a shard of my identity that is vivid because of Guru and Gangstar. It's a big part. I love it. I would ponder the lyrics. I'd like get into the meaning. I would think about the philosophies he put forth. It's like these things do matter. It isn't just, Space Wizards for kids or whatever the fuck however you want to dismiss it. This shit is actually extremely important. It's very sacred.
Yeah. God, you brought up music, and and I'm blaming weed, and apparently I'm not the only one who had like a creative block because they stopped smoking weed. But I have this like desire to create music, but the inability to like, or maybe just I'm so overly critical of everything I do. I'm like, this.
Yeah. You can't do. So I was reading this. I think it was Pressfield. I think it was Stephen Pressfield. He was saying you can't be the author and the critic at the same time. You can you be the author, and then you can be the critic, but you can't do it at the same time. You got to just let the creative person create, and then you assess it later.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing both at the same time, you'll get nothing done.
Yeah, that is probably what I need to hear. I've been trying to hear this and trying to beat this in my head. I was watching another thing. It was actually a TED Talk, but it was like a TED Talk at home with Ethan Hawke. And he was saying something about being okay being the fool. And just like, and it was like, oh man.
Huge.
Just like being okay with just creating and just living with it. And I think.
And risking looking stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. Risking making something bad or dumb. It's just like, just fucking do it. And there's something in my head where it's like, no, it has to be great. If it's not the greatest thing ever, don't do it. Just toss it out. It's like, that's
not how you create. You have to create greatness by going through those pains of sucking.
Yes.
It's the only way to do it.
Making it a habit. It has to be a habitual thing.
A habit
of creation. And then, because that's like anything I've liked was never like, oh, I just made one song this year and that was just great. It was like, no, you just made a bunch of stuff and you look back after a few weeks and like, oh, this but this was kind of good. That's literally how I've done anything.
And any artist I like if I hear their bad stuff before they were good, I'm not like, oh, they suck now.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh wow, that's where they came from. Like we show the bad acting on the cocktail lounge for fun. But like I said, I did that because I would listen to the old O&A shows and they would do it where they would bring their old stand-up bits and they were terrible.
Yeah.
And these are all now professionals just eviscerating this, now good comic. And it was just like, it's like hilarious because it's like, that's where he came from. Like, that's who he used to be. And you see the process of now this guy's like a polished pro, but he fucking sucked back then. And it's like, there's a transformation. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's part of the process. Like, it's part of what it takes to get good at anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, man, you mentioned that stuff. I was on the anniversary episode. Some of that stuff was pretty good. Some of that stuff. Oh. There were two sketches or two bits. The video game one and I forgot the name of the band, but the punk one. Where you outside talking to the girl. Those were so fucking clever. I'm like, I thought a lot of it we made fun of, and the Dolce & Gabbana shots I called them. But that was fucking clever as fuck.
Thanks.
That was clever and entertaining.
I appreciate that because obviously I didn't make them to suck. I didn't make them to be bad. But that was just trying. I think that was the problem with any of that stuff is it's like I was so close to it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so critical of it. All I see are the flaws.
Yeah.
So it's like if it even is good, I don't know. I can't tell anymore.
Yeah.
And then it's so hard. And also Hollywood's so bullshit. You know what I mean? Everybody's just like, like you don't know if they're honestly complimenting you or they're just saying it because they're supposed to. Like it's, it's so confusing. But no, I mean, when we watched the Game Over one, I was like, that was actually pretty good.
The Game Over one was really entertaining. I was like, oh, that was Like if that was just a YouTube video by people that make sketches, I'm like, oh man, that's a cool sketch. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
There's a lot of YouTube videos similar to that where it's just like this weird, scenario sketch store thing, and they just do it. And I'm like, that would have been something I would have seen and given a thumbs up and commented on. Like, oh yeah, that was fun. Do more. Want to see more of this stuff.
Yeah, it's like when you make something like that, it's like it becomes so precious.
Yeah.
And then it's like you because of that you can't even appreciate it even if it's good because it's so precious. It's like that's something I'm trying to get comfortable with is just that the philosophy that you are only entitled to the work, not the outcome, and just do the work and like whatever, you know what I mean? Like if it's great, it's great. If it's not, it's not. Just keep doing the work, and don't get married to these things. Don't make it precious. Don't like crush it under the crucible of your own pressure to make this diamond. Like just keep making, and eventually it'll be good. You know what I mean? Like, if the next 30 shorts I made and the 27th, got turned into a feature that was a big hit, no one would look at the other 26 and be like, well, okay, now that I know about this, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's not how it works.
Yeah. So I got to just get in the habit because a thing for me is when I was younger, the entertainment industry was so different. So there was almost this like freedom in knowing, it's such a long shot. I have all these things to go right. And now you live in a flatter world. It's like, oh, wait, I can very easily get a video done and do marketing and do all this stuff and start a label and get this at least somewhat heard. And it's like, oh man, that means it has to be good. I can't make any shitty stuff and go through this whole process of it. And it's like, well, you gotta just get back in the habit of making stuff, man. Everything that everybody makes is not good. It's just you're human. Just make shit. Pick the best of the shit you make and release it. And that's it.
Yeah. I mean, that's literally all that you can do.
Yeah. And then, if it sucks, just make more stuff.
Yeah. Just go right back to the drawing board. Like that's something Pressfield was saying too, just about as far as like writing, like when he completes something, like he might give himself like a little bit of time to just take off, but real quickly he's right back on the next idea. Because so many times it's like, you rest on their laurels or you rest on the feeling of accomplishment from that thing. And maybe the thing isn't even successful. Maybe it's not even purchased. Maybe nothing even happens with it. And now, like you just wasted time when you could have been producing the next thing. You could have been moving forward, So it's like, or the next thing you in your creative sphere, like you're having a meeting and they're like, we like it. It's not quite there for us. What else you got? And if you have nothing, you're like, oh, I don't know. I thought you'd like this. I got nothing else. They're like, all right, well, have a nice day. But if you're like, oh, well, I'm working on this next project, it's like, just keep the fucking grind alive.
Yes. Yeah. So you got to get back on the grind with that.
Which I'm saying, purely hypothetically, because I don't do that.
Yeah, but no, it still applies, man. I was, I've been in this. That's why I was glad to get Paulie's recommendation. I'm trying to like get back in a artistic, mood. I was looking at this fucking YouTube video on Basquiat.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And one of the things that stood out with all the stuff that, his life was, he really liked creating, and he created a lot of shit. Like, dude, at one point, he was banging Madonna when she was at her apex peak, and she talked about 4 a.m. She wakes up and he's like painting shit. So it's like he's banging the hottest girl at the hottest time in her peak, and he still cares more about painting than hers. Like, this is what I'm put on earth for. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I love doing. No matter what, all the crazy stuff in his life, that jumped out at me. Like, wow.
And there's people out there that just create to just create. Like, that girl that I was dating last year who was, like a real handful.
Yeah.
And it got dicey and complicated and all this shit. But to her credit, man, like when I went to her house and like her whole house was just decorated with this art that she created that was good. Like it was like interesting. Like it was like
Yeah.
kind of macabre. Yeah, it was like this, you know, like pretty death. You know, it would be like a cow skull, but like decorated in a really pretty, interesting way. You know, it was just, and she just did it. Like there was no filter as to whether this is good enough or what's the end goal of doing this. Like, am I making a product? Can I sell? It was just doing it, just doing it to do it. And it was just like her whole house was decorated with that shit. And it was just like, I felt humbled by how free she was to just create without the thought of the outcome. I was like, I was impressed. I was like, shit, like you're brave. Like you just, not even brave, you're just free. Whatever it is, you just do it. It's like, shit, like everything I do is so goddamn precious. Everything is so perfected. And like, it's just, you know, it's boring. It's just like, you know, you make
Perfect
such a
is the
fucking
enemy of good.
mountain. Yes. You make such a mountain out of everything. Like, just fucking do something. Shut up.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, we've already hit the hour mark.
Yeah, we did.
Sheesh. I didn't even
Just
get
like
into the topic that I kind of wanted to talk about, which was actually maybe we'll do it next week or something. Because we're going to keep these to an hour unless you want to get into it. Because that we talked about the cocktail lounge.
Yeah.
There was a topic, and I joked to Wake Down. It was actually before I met you, though. I wanted to drive to Austin and do a drive-by because of not being able to because, you know, the cocktail lounge is 100 people on the panel. And so I felt like I never was able to complete my thoughts. But it was the fucking Sargon.
Oh, yeah.
What is it? Should you have kids? No, the moral obligation of having kids. Yeah. And I don't think I expressed myself properly. And as I thought more, I feel like a better question to have is what is the viability of having kids in this modern era? More so than is it a moral obligation? Because we just don't live in the same society in which it was like expected you'd have kids by 30 and be married and all this stuff. Like that's high and good. And there's nothing wrong with that. And shout out to all the people who are married with kids and that. But I feel like there's now like there's the craziness of the dating market. There's the craziness of actually raising kids in this world. We talk so much about this damn media, you know, it's not just adult media, it's all media. There's an agenda to it. Then there's the public school sector. As much as we would like to say, oh, I'll send your kids to private school. It's like, yeah, when I hit the lottery, I'll drive a Maserati too. You know what I mean? More than likely, you know, if I had a kid tomorrow or got a girl pregnant tomorrow, which doesn't look like it's in the cards, but if it did happen, that kid's probably going to a public school. That's just the reality of it. Maybe if I get to a point. And so, I mean, you do realize that, man, you're in this crazy world now. Like, how do you balance that? And I know, you know, you made a point that, you know, the grocery store is down the street. We're not in the third world country. It's not, you know, we're not in the 20s and the Great Depression. We're not in any crazy era. But there is an attack on the mind by everywhere. And there's you know, it's a different era. And then there's, again, the viability of that relationship lasting. There's a higher divorce rate. There's a lot of things to consider. You know, what is that kid going to go through?
Have you done a solo stream on this topic?
I think I may have brought parts of it up.
Because it just sounds like you have so many ideas that you need to explore about it. Maybe you should just try it solo and just see how that goes. Because not to say like I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
It just sounds like I almost just want to let you go. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So it's like maybe you should just try it solo and just see that. Because it's like you clearly have like a lot of facets to why you think what you think about this particular topic. So it's like it's almost more, maybe it's more productive for you to just talk about that solo or even make a video about it, like just a solo standalone video.
Maybe.
Because there's a lot there for sure, I could tell. So, you know,
it's something I've thought about, I guess, because as I get older, it's like, am I going to have kids or not?
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking that too.
It's like that's becoming a thing.
Yeah. Pushing 40, man.
Yeah. I'll be 40 in 5 years, and I don't have any relationships coming down the pike. So, and I don't plan on, no one plans on it, but I don't want to just like meet a girl and after 2 months, oh, I'm pregnant and that's my kid. And it's like, if that happens, that happens, but it's not the ideal situation. I want, and so I guess it's just something I've really thought about as I've gotten older and as I'm getting older. And my birthday's in a few months and I'll be 35. And it's just one of those things that you do think about, right? As you get
Yeah.
older. And it's like, I'm not opposed to having kids. It's
Well,
just,
it's similar to the thing that happens with the chicks, right? It's like, women think, I'm going to make my career, it's going to do all this. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, fuck, it's almost kind of too late. And it's, we're getting to that point where it's like, think if I have a kid today,
mm-hmm.
if I get a girl pregnant today, like, I'll be 38 when the kid's born.
Mm-hmm.
That means I'll be 58, almost 60 when the kid's 20.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's pretty fucking old, man. It's like my dad is, almost 70 now,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm almost 40.
Yeah.
It's like it's kind of like he kind of did it within the time frame where it makes sense. I think I'm almost outside of the reasonable time frame where it's almost like, what is it even fair to the kid?
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like, I don't know what my shape is going to be at 60. And that's going to be what about the time, if I had a kid today or got a girl pregnant, I'll be, like I said, 35 going on 36. 20 years from there, I'm 56. I don't keep myself in the best condition, so all these conditions are going to get a little worse. Even if I get healthy, there's still so much damage done.
Statistically, your people don't live the longest. Is that as well? It's true. I'm not saying
it is true though.
Yeah.
I mean, luckily, I got grandparents in their 80s. Thank God.
All right, there you go. So your personal genetics are
may work
strong.
out. But even still, what if I have health issues and what if God forbid something happens to me? One genetic thing is heart attack, stroke. It's a real risk. And so what if my kid's 25 and now his 60-year-old dad has a stroke? It's like now he's fucked. He has to worry about his dad now. And it's like I did that to my kid. And it's like, well, if I got it done 5-6 years earlier, at least he's in his 30s. He's close. He's further along in whatever career.
It's like
there's
only been like 2 chicks in my life, that were even kind of viable.
Yeah,
but like I've just like never been like I just feel like I'm never in control of my life. Like I just feel like I'm still just barely hanging on. And I'm always building something from scratch. It feels like, I always feel like I'm always starting over. I'm always starting from square one. And it's like, like, I don't know. I just think like how long does that materialize? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how long do I keep this up? Like, is it just a selfish endeavor? Is it purely just selfish? And I just keep going until it fucking clicks and like, whatever happens, let the chips fall where they may. Or do, I change my prerogative? Do I change my priorities and then just be like, what? Like, what's more important? I don't know. Like, I really don't have an answer. It's just something that I've just been thinking about a lot more recently where I'm like, oh God, like, I just look around and like, I'm not ashamed of my life, but I'm like, I'm not exactly proud of it either. I'm not exactly looking back like on what I built, like, way to go,
Yeah. And then, am I maligned to like, I'm not going to have a kid if I have one until my 40s. I just think that's not a good thing for the kid.
Yeah, and I'm like, it's like at least my 40. It's like, because even if I meet the love of my life or whatever, or some great girl tomorrow, we're not gonna have a kid in the next few years. Like that's crazy. So it'll be at least 2-3 years at minimum. So we're talking 40. So
and people do it.
People do it. It's not like it doesn't happen. Typically, they tend to be wealthier.
True.
And I look at my YouTube numbers. I don't think I'm blowing up anytime soon.
Yeah, please sub and share so we
crying
can
out loud
reproduce.
Yeah,
there's more of us.
Oh fuck! My podcast last week did do its best numbers though. It's got like 140 views.
I saw that. Congrats.
Yeah, which is like not a big deal, but big deal for that show.
Yeah, that's kind of what inspired me to say, hey, we should do this show similarly. Just pre-record it. I'm going to put this up at 8 Monday and then just 8 a.m. Monday every day or every week, and eventually people kind of catch on, and then they'll look for it, and then it'll be a podcast. And this is the
I
actual.
certainly hope so.
That's the hope, and this is an actual podcast instead of just a live stream.
Yeah.
So that's I'm hoping that works, and I think it's kind of combining the elements that I liked about the Secret Identity show and the show that we did into one happy, mesh or whatever.
Yeah. The other thing I was thinking though is like we should make room, even if it's just like whenever, like kind of a random, like unplanned thing, or if it's like once a month or something, live stream thing. Because so much of what we've done on YouTube and our, relative success has to do with the fan, like the people
Absolutely.
that are the chat, right? Like, and there's like a respect there that I think should be honored. It's like let them, they deserve the chance to make fun of me.
Yeah.
To my face.
Yeah.
But it's like there should be like I think that was so much a part of the show and of what we've done is talking with the chat. So it's like I don't want to abandon that completely.
What do we do without Sentient Dildo? Like, how do we live? We need Sentient Dildo. You are our only hope. Like, we need him around.
If there's anyone on earth who could keep you in check, it's that Croatian criminal.
Yeah, man. All shit aside, he's the man.
That fucking war criminal.
Yeah.
Whatever the hell he's up to. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So yeah, we do have to do some live stuff too.
Yeah.
When we can.
Because I mean, like the Boys Cast, they started doing a live. It's Patreon only, but it's kind of dope because it's only there was only like 25 people in the chat. But it's like creators that are pretty so prominent. So it was like a really intimate. It's kind of like a live stream, like a member stream with Gary. Like it's kind of like you get to just interact almost directly with them. And it's pretty sick. Like it's just like, wow, I love this, and I love that it's just on Patreon. It's not like live to everybody. Like it was dope. It was just like one of our streams. Like 25 people. Like we'd be like, woohoo, we're doing great.
Yeah.
but for like, it was just, I don't know. I liked how intimate it was. It was like I kind of think that some of the charm of some of the stuff that we do, like it's the same people. Like it's almost like the same kind of group of friends. You know what I mean? Showing up and be like, what's up? You know what I mean? Like. There is something about that. Obviously, it's not like I'm like, yeah, that's why we don't grow because we want to keep it that way.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like I've been investigating this philosophy, stoicism, and like a lot of the times it's kind of just like appreciating like the beauty of everything that and everywhere that you can. But like if you think about it, there really is a beauty in that. Like there is something cool about that that's like consistent, and it's like, it's from a perspective, it's nothing. Who cares? It's you have your videos get 100 views or whatever. It's like it's completely insignificant in the whole scope of YouTube. But from another perspective, it's like those are people that are there. They're human beings who are interacting and talking and thinking and talking with us. And it's like that's happening. That's a living thing that's happening in front of us. And it's like that's something special about that. That's kind of like you really can't duplicate except with what we do. Like there's no how else can you with the exception of maybe like the Boys Cast thing, but even that is almost still not quite the same. Like it's like we're like a secret. Like it's like you could only know about us if you fucking know about us. Like there's no other way to find it.
And say what you will, people care about the shit we make. Even if they're gonna talk shit in the comments, they don't give a fuck. They care. You care, Sentient Dildo. Stop the cap.
No, don't stop the cap. If you start getting nice, I'd get uncomfortable. It
would be weird.
Yeah. All right. Well, you want to stop it there?
Guess so. Yeah, man. Feels good to be back.
Fuck yeah, it does. Like we didn't miss a beat, dude.
Yeah. I thought it would be pretty smooth. Like I said, we got to the hour quick. I'm like, oh shit, this is actually over, isn't it? Got some extra time out of it. Some OT out of it. But yeah, this is really fun. Really fun. So yeah, this is the new format. So that way we're consistent. So be back next week. We'll have another episode. This is the new season of Culture Crime Fires. I want to thank Matt. Yeah, it's going to be on my channel now. That's what she's also
exclusively.
Like. Oh no, it's just my thing. So I got to not fuck it up. So.
And it was just what made sense with like what's going on with my channel and like the MFR podcast and stuff. It just was like, honestly, I just thought it'd be too much me. if it
Yeah.
was. You know what I mean? We're doing the and then also like it's a podcast. It's not like a live stream. So we were we gonna like release the podcast differently on each channel? Like that would just
That
get
would
confusing.
be weird. That would be so confusing. I would be confused.
Yeah.
I got to go this week. It's different with a live stream, right?
2-hour live stream. It's live. If you subscribe to both of us, you get the alert. But it's just like if you're trying to follow the podcast, you know what I mean? Like that would just be.
It's too much.
Insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, I thought this was the smartest move.
Maybe when we get 100K subs each, we'll do like a dedicated channel to it or something like that.
Yeah, that would make perfect sense.
But yeah, that would work a little bit better. But all right. Thank you guys for joining us. If you like the video, please like the video.
Please.
If you're so obliged to share, subscribe, and you have it, please.
If you didn't dislike the video, please press like.
Yes. If you were just, hey, still like.
It's one little. That's how much effort we're asking of you. Just that little click. We're talking about a half a pound of pressure. Bink. Yeah. And then that's it.
Even though I'm not going to lie, sometimes I troll dislike videos I like. I don't know why. I don't know
really?
why that's not. Yeah. I'm annoyed. Not like not people I
You're just
know
mad at people, like just in general. Just like, you know what? Fuck you, Gary. Click. How's that?
Like I'll like watch a video. A lot of it's the tutorial videos, and I'm like, this snarky fucker, fuck you.
If I genuinely don't like it,
even if I use the information, I'll just dislike it. Just like
I only dislike if I hate it. If I just don't like it, I'm like I'll move on. But if I like hate the guy, I'm like fuck you. Here's my dislike, bitch, and only you could see it, so it's even more personal.
Yeah. So don't do that to us, please. Don't.
Do that to us,
please like us. Sub to Matt. Sub to Foulball Productions. Sub to me. And share. But even if you did none of these things, thank you for watching.
Thanks
for
watching.
your time. Good morning, and God bless.
Yeah, good morning. God bless. I hope you're doing well. And we'll see you next week. And you can always check out my podcast, MF for Podcast. And if that's not good enough, got the Cocktail Lounge as well. Lots of content from these two chuckle fucks.
There you go. All right.
Yeah.
Peace.
Peace.